Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It is quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let us return to our main character. The morning had barely settled over the small Texas town when the bell above the cafe door chimed, and Emily Carter stepped inside, rubbing her chilled hands together. She had only 30 minutes before her shift at the florist shop, and she desperately needed caffeine to survive another day of juggling bills, late rent notices, and a car that coughed more than it started. Her hair was pulled back in a loose ponytail, her shirt slightly wrinkled from being worn too many times, but she still stood straight, determined not to let life see her cracking. The cafe smelled of warm pastries and fresh grounds, a scent she wished she could bottle and keep for days when hope felt thin. She stepped to the counter, scanning the menu even though she always ordered the same thing. "One small vanilla latte, please," she said, offering the barista a tired smile. The barista nodded, tapping the screen. Emily stepped aside to wait, digging into her purse to make sure she had enough singles to cover the drink. That was when she noticed him. A sharply dressed man stood near the pickup area, his tailored suit a stark contrast to the rustic wood and mismatched chairs around him. He looked out of place, like someone who should be in a boardroom instead of a small-town cafe. She assumed he was passing through for business, maybe a meeting at the local development office, the one everyone in town whispered about. Her drink came up with a soft thud on the counter. She reached for it, took a sip, and immediately grimaced. "Oh no," she murmured under her breath. "This is not mine." Instead of her familiar vanilla latte, the cup held a double-shot espresso, strong enough to wake an exhausted bear. She looked toward the barista, but the morning rush was in full swing and the line was growing behind her. Before she could speak, the man in the suit turned slightly. "Is everything all right?" he asked, his voice smooth and confident. Emily forced a laugh. "Just a mix-up. I ordered something sweeter." "Well," he said, reaching for the cup in her hand with a gentle, unexpected boldness. "This one is mine. Looks like I took yours instead." Her eyes widened. "Oh, I am so sorry. No harm done," he said, exchanging their cups effortlessly. "Unless you like drinking jet fuel, then I guess I ruined your morning." The corner of her mouth lifted despite her exhaustion. "No, I definitely do not." When their fingers brushed during the exchange, a tiny spark zipped up her arm. Ridiculous, she told herself. Men like him did not notice women like her. She wrapped her hands around the warm cup and nodded politely. "Thank you. Any time," he replied. And for a heartbeat, his gaze lingered on her a little too long. She stepped back, suddenly aware of her wrinkled shirt, her worn purse, her entire life folded into a small paycheck-to-paycheck existence. She hurried toward the door. He watched her go, something unreadable crossing his expression, but Emily never saw it. Outside, the cold morning air bit at her skin as she took a sip of her corrected latte. Sweet, warm, familiar, and yet something about the moment inside had unsettled her in a way she could not explain. She shook it off, whispering to herself, "Get it together, Emily. No time for daydreams." Little did she know that the man whose coffee she had accidentally claimed was a billionaire with more power than she could imagine. And this tiny mix-up, this simple wrong coffee, was about to pull her into a world she never thought she would step inside. As Emily made her way down the street, the chill of the morning air nipped at her skin, but her thoughts were far away from the weather. She could not stop replaying the brief moment in the cafe. His polite smile, the way his eyes had lingered just a second longer than necessary, and the strange warmth she felt when their fingers brushed. She shook her head, trying to clear the thoughts that kept creeping into her mind. "Focus," she whispered to herself. You have to keep it together. It had been a long time since she allowed herself to get distracted by someone, especially someone like him. There was no room for daydreams in her life. Not now, when bills were overdue and she was just trying to get through the day. She tried to push the encounter out of her mind as she hurried to the florist's shop, where she worked part-time to make ends meet. The bell above the door jingled as she entered the shop, and the familiar smell of fresh flowers greeted her, momentarily calming her nerves. But she still couldn't shake the feeling that something had shifted in her. The coffee mix-up seemed so insignificant, yet it was all she could think about. A few hours later, the morning rush had settled, and Emily was arranging a bouquet of roses when her phone buzzed on the counter. She glanced at the screen, expecting a reminder about another overdue payment, but instead, it was a message from an unknown number. Hi Emily, this is Liam Parker. I believe we met earlier at the cafe. I would like to talk to you about something. The message was brief, but the fact that it was from him, the man from the cafe, made her heart skip a beat. She stared at the screen, unsure how to respond. Her mind raced with 1,000 questions. Why was he contacting her? What could he possibly want with someone like her? Was this just some sort of joke? After a moment's hesitation, she tapped out a response, trying to keep her tone casual. Hi Liam, I'm surprised to hear from you. What can I help you with? She hit send and held her breath. Her phone buzzed almost immediately in reply. I would like to offer you an opportunity. Could you meet me for coffee tomorrow? I think you will find this interesting. She stared at the message, feeling a mix of excitement and fear flood through her. What was this opportunity? Could it be real? She had no idea what to expect, but something told her she had to go. The next day, she walked into the upscale cafe he had suggested, her nerves getting the best of her. She had never been to a place like this before, and the polished marble floors and sleek decor made her feel out of place. She spotted him almost immediately, sitting at a table near the window, dressed impeccably in a dark suit. His presence was commanding, and for a moment, Emily wondered if she should just turn around and leave. But then he looked up, and their eyes met. He smiled, standing up to greet her. Emily, he said, his voice smooth, like everything he said was calculated. It's good to see you again. Please, have a seat. She took a deep breath and sat down, trying to mask the nervousness she felt. Thanks for inviting me, she said, her voice shaky. I wasn't sure what to expect. He chuckled softly, his eyes studying her with an intensity that made her feel both uncomfortable and oddly seen. I think you'll understand soon enough. I'm not one to waste time, so I'll get straight to the point. I'm in need of a partner of sorts. Someone who can help me with an important project. Emily furrowed her brow, unsure of where this conversation was headed. A partner? What kind of project? She asked cautiously. Liam leaned back in his chair, looking at her intently. I can't give you all the details just yet, but suffice it to say, it's an opportunity that could change your life. I need someone I can trust, someone with a certain skill set, someone who isn't afraid to step outside their comfort zone. That's where you come in. Emily blinked, unsure if she had heard him right. Me? She asked, almost laughing. Why would you want someone like me for a project like that? Liam's gaze softened slightly, and he leaned forward. Because, Emily, I believe you have something most people don't. You see the world differently. You have a unique perspective that could help me achieve something big, and I think you could use a little help too. The right kind of help, a way out of the daily grind. Emily felt a lump form in her throat. Was this real? Was he really offering her something like this? It sounded too good to be true. I don't know, she said, her voice trembling slightly. This all seems too sudden. Liam's expression remained calm, almost as if he expected this response. I understand your hesitation, he said, but think about it. This could be the change you've been waiting for. I promise you, I'm not asking you to do anything that would compromise your integrity. This is about giving you a chance to step into a new world, a world where your potential isn't limited by circumstances. Emily felt her heart race as she tried to process his words. She had always dreamed of a better life, but she had never imagined something like this, something so unexpected, so far out of her reach. Yet, here he was, offering her a chance, but was she ready to take it? Emily sat in stunned silence, her mind racing as she processed Liam's words. The cafe's background noise seemed to fade away, replaced by the sound of her own heartbeat pounding in her ears. She had imagined many things in her life, but this the offer from a complete stranger, a man who was practically oozing confidence and wealth, was beyond anything she could have ever predicted. A chance to step into a new world? A world where her potential wasn't limited by circumstances? It all sounded like a dream, but the more she thought about it, the more she realized it was an opportunity she couldn't afford to ignore. "I've spent my life just getting by," she finally said, her voice shaky. "I've never even thought about something like this. I'm not sure I'm the right person for whatever this is." Liam leaned forward, his expression softening slightly, but his eyes still held that intense focus, as though he could see straight through her. "Emily, that's exactly why I need you," he said. "You see, most people in my world are driven by money, status, and power. But you're different. You have heart, you see the world with a clarity that others miss. And that's what I need for this project, to find someone who isn't blinded by the usual distractions. Someone who's willing to make a real difference." Emily swallowed hard, trying to control the mix of emotions that were threatening to overwhelm her. It was hard to imagine how someone like him, a successful CEO with everything at his fingertips, could see anything special in her. She was just a waitress, barely scraping by. She was a woman who had learned to be content with the little things, like a cup of coffee that didn't make her cringe, or an hour of quiet when she could finally breathe. And now here he was, offering her a chance to change everything. But at what cost? "I don't know," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I've never been in a position to make a choice like this. What if I fail?" Liam's lips twitched into a small smile, but it wasn't condescending, just understanding. "Failure is a part of the journey, Emily. But if you never try, you'll never know what you're capable of. I'm not asking you to risk everything. I'm offering you a path, one that could lead to something much bigger than where you are now. You don't have to make a decision today. But think about it. Think about what this could mean for you." The words hung in the air, heavy with the weight of possibility. Emily wanted to say no, to back out and return to the safety of her routine, the predictable, albeit difficult, life she knew. But something inside her stirred a longing she couldn't explain. It was the same feeling she'd had when she first dreamed of opening her own art studio. It was the spark of hope, the thought that maybe, just maybe, there was something more out there for her. "I'll think about it," she said finally, her voice steady now, though her heart was still racing. "But I can't promise anything." Liam's smile widened, and for the first time Emily saw a flicker of genuine warmth in his eyes. "That's all I'm asking for," he said. He stood up, offering his hand across the table. "I'll leave you with the decision. Take your time, Emily. Just know that the offer stands." She hesitated for a moment, then reached out, shaking his hand. The touch was firm, confident, but something in it felt reassuring, like he wasn't just offering her an opportunity, but a chance to truly change her life. As she left the cafe, her mind was spinning. She had never imagined a man like Liam would cross her path, let alone offer her something so life-changing. She had always thought the rich and powerful lived in a different world, a world that she could never be a part of. But now, for the first time, she wondered if maybe, just maybe, she could be. The next few days were a blur. Emily went through her usual routine, but she couldn't shake the thought of Liam and his offer. She found herself wondering what it would be like to step into that world, to leave behind the life she had known. She could see herself in a new role, a new life, but the uncertainty of it all made her hesitate. Her friends told her she should take the chance. What's the worst that could happen? They said, but Emily was afraid. What if she wasn't good enough? What if she didn't belong? But every time she closed her eyes, she saw Liam's face, the way he had looked at her with such sincerity, as though he truly believed in her. She realized that for once, someone saw her potential, and that made her wonder if she was finally ready to see it too. Emily spent the next few days in a daze, unable to focus on anything but the conversation with Liam. She went through her usual routines, checking on the flowers in the shop, taking orders, and managing the bills, but her mind kept returning to his offer. Each time she tried to push it aside, it crept back in. She would lie in bed at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering what her life could be like if she took that leap. Could she really leave behind everything she knew for a chance at something bigger? Something better? The fear gnawed at her, but so did the excitement. One morning, she walked into the florist shop to find a small envelope waiting for her behind the counter. Her name was written on it in neat, elegant handwriting. Her heart skipped a beat as she opened it. Inside was a business card and a note, asterisk, I hope you've had time to think about our conversation. I believe in your potential, Emily. Let's meet again, this time to discuss the details. I'll be at the Parker Building at 10 a.m. tomorrow. Don't worry, the coffee will be on me. Asterisk. The card was embossed with Liam's name, followed by his title, asterisk CEO, Parker Enterprises, asterisk. She stared at the card, her mind racing. This was real. This wasn't some fleeting moment or a passing whim. He was serious, and it was time for her to make a decision. The next morning, Emily found herself standing in front of the Parker Building, its towering glass structure gleaming in the morning sun. She had passed by it countless times, but never imagined she would one day walk inside. The doorman greeted her with a polite nod as she stepped through the revolving doors. She felt out of place immediately, like a small fish in an ocean of suits and polished shoes. She swallowed her nerves and headed toward the elevator. As she reached the top floor, the doors opened into a sleek, modern office. The walls were lined with floor-to-ceiling windows that offered a stunning view of the city, and the entire space exuded an air of power and success. Liam stood near the windows, looking out over the city as though he had been waiting for her. When he turned to face her, a warm smile spread across his face. "Emily, I'm glad you could make it," he said, his voice smooth and confident. "Please, have a seat." She sat down across from him, still feeling a little out of place in the luxurious surroundings. "Thank you for meeting me," she said, her voice steady despite the nerves swirling in her stomach. "I've been thinking a lot about what you said." Liam nodded, his expression thoughtful. "And what have you decided?" She hesitated, feeling the weight of the decision she was about to make. I think I want to give it a try," she said quietly. "I want to take the chance, to see where it leads, but I need to know more. What exactly do you need me to do?" Liam's eyes lit up, and for the first time since they had met, he looked genuinely excited. "I knew you'd be open to the idea," he said, standing up and walking over to a sleek desk. He picked up a folder and handed it to her. "This is the project I mentioned. It's a new venture. We're launching something that could change the way people think about business, about giving back. It's not just about money, Emily. It's about impact. We want to make a difference, and I believe you can help us do that." Emily opened the folder, her eyes scanning the papers inside. It was a detailed proposal for a new nonprofit initiative, one that would work with local communities to provide support for small businesses and individuals who were struggling to get back on their feet. It wasn't about charity, Liam explained, but about empowering people to rebuild their lives and create opportunities for themselves. "This is incredible," Emily said, her voice filled with awe. "You really want me to be a part of this?" Liam smiled, his gaze never leaving hers. "I do. I think you're the missing piece we've been looking for. You understand people in a way that I can't. You have a gift for seeing the potential in others, and that's what we need." Emily's heart raced as she processed what he was saying. This wasn't just about a job. This was about being part of something meaningful, something bigger than herself. It was a chance to make a real difference. She took a deep breath, her mind now clear. "I'm in," she said, her voice firm with determination. "I'll do it." Liam's smile grew wider, and he extended his hand across the desk. "Welcome aboard, Emily. I knew you'd be the right choice." As she shook his hand, she couldn't help but feel a surge of excitement. This was it. Her life was about to change, and she was ready to take that first step into a new world, a world full of possibilities, challenges, and opportunities. A world where she could finally make the impact she had always dreamed of. As Emily left the Parker building, the weight of her decision settled on her shoulders, but for the first time in a long while, it felt like a weight she could carry. She had made the choice to step into a new life, to embrace an opportunity she never thought would come her way. The city streets around her buzzed with energy, but she felt like she was in a different world, one where anything was possible. Over the next few weeks, Emily threw herself into the new project with everything she had. Every day was a new challenge, a new opportunity to learn and grow. Liam was by her side, guiding her through the complexities of the initiative. He wasn't just a boss, he was a mentor, someone who believed in her potential even when she didn't see it herself. They worked long hours, often late into the evening, refining strategies, meeting with community leaders, and building partnerships with local businesses. Emily's life had changed in ways she couldn't have imagined. The florist shop seemed like a distant memory, a part of her past that no longer defined her. Her confidence grew with each success, and as the weeks passed, she began to see the impact they were making. But it wasn't just the work that had transformed her, it was Liam. He had been patient, supportive, and kind, but there was something else there, something she couldn't quite put her finger on. She found herself looking forward to their meetings, the quiet moments between work when they would share a cup of coffee and talk about everything but business. There was a connection between them, one that had started to blossom slowly, quietly. Emily tried to ignore it at first, telling herself that she was just being grateful for his mentorship. But the more time they spent together, the more she realized that the feelings she was developing for Liam went far beyond professional admiration. She had spent so many years convincing herself that she didn't have room for love, that she didn't need anyone else. But with him, everything felt different. One evening, after a particularly long meeting, Liam invited her to dinner. It wasn't a business dinner, he assured her. It was just a meal between two people who had worked hard and needed a break. Emily agreed, her nerves fluttering in her stomach as she met him at the restaurant. They sat at a quiet table in the corner, surrounded by soft lighting and the hum of other patrons. For the first time, Emily allowed herself to relax and simply enjoy the moment. As the night wore on, their conversation shifted from work to more personal topics. Liam talked about his childhood, his family, and the struggles he had faced to get where he was. Emily shared her own story, growing up in a small town, always dreaming of something more but never knowing how to get there. As they talked, she realized just how much they had in common. They were both people who had fought for what they had, who had built their lives from the ground up. But more than that, they understood each other in ways no one else did. The connection between them deepened that night, and as the evening came to a close, Liam reached across the table, his hand resting gently on hers. "I'm glad we did this," he said, his voice soft. "I think we both needed a break." Emily looked up at him, her heart racing. She could feel the weight of his gaze, the intensity in his eyes. For a moment, time seemed to stand still, and then, without thinking, she spoke. "Liam, I think I'm starting to feel something more for you. I don't know if this is right, but I can't ignore it. Liam's expression softened, and he squeezed her hand. I've been feeling the same way, Emily. I didn't want to complicate things, especially with everything going on with the project. But I can't pretend anymore. I think we both deserve a chance at something real. Emily's heart skipped a beat. She had spent so long doubting herself, so long convincing herself that love wasn't for her. But here, in this moment, with Liam, it felt right. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew one thing for sure. She was ready to take a chance on it. As they left the restaurant, the cool night air felt different. It wasn't just the crisp breeze that made her feel alive. It was the promise of something new, something unexpected. A future she never could have imagined for herself. A future that, for the first time in a long time, included love. As they walked side by side, Emily realized that taking a chance on Liam wasn't just about a business opportunity. It was about stepping into a life she never thought was possible, one where love, success, and happiness could coexist. And for the first time in years, she felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be. The days following their dinner felt like a dream to Emily. It was as though a veil had been lifted, and for the first time, she saw the world in vivid colors, full of possibilities. She and Liam spent more time together, not just working side by side on the project, but enjoying the quiet moments in between. They would talk over coffee, walk through the city together, and laugh at the small things like the way Liam always seemed to lose his keys, or how Emily would get lost in the middle of a conversation because her mind was always a million miles away. But through it all, there was an undeniable bond between them. The connection they had started to build felt natural, easy, and real. It was like they had known each other for years, even though they had only met a short time ago. Their relationship was a mix of professional respect and something deeper, something more personal. Emily had always been cautious when it came to matters of the heart. She had been hurt before, and she had built walls around herself to protect against the vulnerability that love demanded. But with Liam, she found herself letting go, little by little. One evening, as they sat together in his penthouse, Emily found herself staring out of the window at the glowing city skyline. She hadn't realized how much time had passed since they had started this journey together. Everything in her life had shifted. She was no longer the woman who had walked into the Parker building with doubts and fear. She had become someone stronger, more confident, and more open to the life that Liam had shown her. "Liam," she said softly, breaking the comfortable silence. "I've been thinking a lot about everything about the project, about us. I never imagined I'd be here, doing something like this." Liam turned to her, his gaze gentle and full of understanding. "You're doing great, Emily," he said, his voice warm. "You've brought so much to this project. You're exactly where you need to be." She smiled, but her heart ached a little. "It's not just the project, it's you. I never thought I'd let anyone in like this, but with you, it feels different. I don't know what's happening between us, but I know it's real." Liam reached over and took her hand, squeezing it gently. "It is real, Emily. I've been feeling the same way. I didn't want to rush things, but I can't ignore what I'm feeling anymore. I want this, whatever this is, more than anything." Emily's breath caught in her throat. She had known, deep down, that Liam felt the same, but hearing him say it out loud made her heart race. "Are you sure?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "I don't want to complicate things. We're building something important, and I don't want to ruin it." Liam smiled, his eyes never leaving hers. "We won't ruin it. We're not just building a business. We're building something real, Emily. I want you in my life in every way." The weight of his words settled in her chest, and for the first time, Emily allowed herself to believe it. She allowed herself to believe that love wasn't something out of her reach, that it wasn't just for the lucky or the wealthy. It was for her, too, and for Liam. As the evening wore on, they continued to talk, the world outside forgotten as they shared their dreams, their fears, and everything in between. It was a moment of clarity for Emily. She had found something she never thought she would have. A partner, both in work and in life, and she wasn't afraid anymore. She wasn't afraid of the future, or of love, or of what might come next. She was ready. A few days later, as they stood together at a press conference announcing the official launch of their project, Emily realized just how far she had come. She had started this journey uncertain and alone, but now she was standing beside Liam, a man she trusted with everything she had. They were partners in every sense of the word, professionally and personally. As Liam spoke about the impact their work would have on the community, Emily couldn't help but smile. She was proud of what they had accomplished, proud of how far they had both come. And for the first time in her life, she wasn't afraid to admit it. She was exactly where she was meant to be. With him, the weeks following the press conference flew by in a blur of meetings, events, and late nights working together. Emily and Liam continued to grow closer, their bond becoming undeniable. They were not just partners in the project anymore, they were partners in life. As they navigated the highs and lows of their work, the chemistry between them deepened. But with every step forward, Emily felt the weight of the unspoken questions lingering in the back of her mind. Was this real? Was it possible for their relationship to survive outside of the work they were building together? One evening, as they wrapped up a long meeting, Liam invited her to dinner at one of his favorite restaurants. It was a quiet place with dim lighting and a cozy atmosphere, far from the glitz and glam of the corporate world. Emily couldn't help but smile at the thought of spending a simple evening with him, away from the pressures of their project. They sat at a corner table, their conversation flowing easily as they shared a bottle of wine. For the first time in a while, Emily felt truly relaxed, as though the world outside didn't exist. "You know," Liam said, breaking the comfortable silence, "I've been thinking a lot about us lately." Emily's heart skipped a beat, unsure of where the conversation was going. "What do you mean?" she asked softly. Liam leaned back in his chair, his gaze thoughtful. "I think we've come a long way, both professionally and personally, but I need to be honest with you. I've never felt this way about anyone before. And I know that I've been hesitant to talk about it, but I think it's time." Emily's breath caught in her throat. This was the moment she had been dreading, the moment when everything they had built together would be tested. "Liam," she started, her voice trembling slightly, "I don't want to mess this up. I don't want to complicate things. We've come so far, and She trailed off, unsure of what to say. Liam reached across the table, gently placing his hand over hers. "I understand," he said, his voice calm and reassuring. "I've been hesitant too, but I think we're ready for this. I don't want to hide what I'm feeling anymore. Emily, I care about you. I care about us. And I don't want to let fear stop us from having what we deserve." The sincerity in his eyes took her breath away. She had spent so much of her life holding herself back, too afraid to trust in love, in the possibility of something real. But here, with Liam, it felt different. He wasn't asking her for perfection. He was asking her to trust in the connection they had built, to take a chance on something that could be beautiful. Emily took a deep breath, feeling a weight lift off her chest. "I care about you too, Liam. More than I've ever cared about anyone, and I think I'm ready to take that chance." The relief that washed over her was overwhelming. They didn't need to have all the answers. They just needed to be honest, to trust in what they had and where it could lead. The rest would fall into place. As they left the restaurant, hand in hand, the night air was crisp, but Emily felt a warmth inside her that had nothing to do with the temperature. She had always been afraid to love, afraid to let someone in. But now, with Liam, she knew she was ready. Ready to embrace love. Ready to embrace the future they could have together. As the days passed, Emily and Liam continued to grow closer, their bond stronger than ever. The project they had worked so hard on was flourishing, and with every success, their relationship seemed to deepen. They had become an unstoppable team, both professionally and personally. Emily could feel herself falling more in love with Liam every day, and for the first time, she wasn't afraid of what that meant. She was ready to embrace it, but even as things were going perfectly in her personal life, there was a growing sense of unease. She knew that there would come a time when everything they had built together would be tested, and that time came sooner than she expected. It was a Friday evening when everything changed. Emily had just finished up a meeting with the project team and was looking forward to a quiet night with Liam. But when she walked into his office, she could see something was wrong. Liam was sitting at his desk, his face tense and his posture stiff. The usual warmth in his eyes had been replaced by a deep concern. "Liam?" she asked softly, stepping into the room. "What's going on?" He looked up at her, his expression conflicted. "I need to talk to you, Emily. There's something I've been avoiding, something I should have told you a while ago." Emily's heart skipped a beat. She felt a cold knot form in her stomach, wondering what could be so important that Liam had been keeping it from her. "What is it?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. Liam stood up and walked toward her, running a hand through his hair. "It's about the project," he began. "I've been offered a partnership with a larger corporation. It's a huge opportunity, something that could take this project to the next level. But the catch is, it would mean bringing in outside investors, and they might want to change things about the direction we're going. They might even want to take control of some of the decision-making." Emily felt a rush of confusion and worry. This project had been their dream, something they had built together from the ground up. The thought of losing control over it was terrifying. "What are you saying?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam paused, his gaze softening as he met her eyes. "I don't want to lose what we've built. But at the same time, I have to think about the future of this company. This is a major decision, and I don't want to make it alone. I want to know what you think." Emily's mind was racing. The offer was a big deal, but it also felt like a betrayal, like the thing they had worked so hard for might slip through their fingers. But she knew that she couldn't make this decision based on fear alone. "I need some time to think about it," she said, trying to keep her voice calm. "This is a lot to process." Liam nodded, his face full of regret. "I understand. Take all the time you need. I want you to be a part of this decision, Emily. You're not just my partner in this project, you're my partner in everything." Emily left the office feeling more conflicted than ever. She had always believed in the idea of doing things together, making decisions as a team. But now, the reality of what that would mean for their future was hitting her. The weight of the decision felt suffocating. That night, Emily couldn't sleep. She tossed and turned, her mind spinning with questions. What was the right choice? Should they take the opportunity and risk losing control? Or should they hold on to their dream and keep it small, but entirely their own? It felt like a test, one that would define not only the future of the project, but the future of her relationship with Liam. She knew she couldn't make this decision on her own. She needed to talk to Liam, to share her fears, to figure out what was best for both of them. But she also knew that the answer wasn't going to be easy. The next morning, she found Liam at the office, waiting for her. His eyes softened when he saw her, and without a word, he walked over and took her hand in his. "I've been thinking about it too," he said quietly. "And I know this isn't easy. But I want to make this decision with you, Emily. I don't want to lose what we have. We'll figure this out together." Emily felt a surge of relief wash over her. For the first time that day, she felt like they were on the same page. They weren't just facing a challenge together, they were facing their future together. And whatever that future held, she knew they would tackle it as a team. "Let's take our time," Emily said, squeezing his hand. "We'll figure it out." As she stood there, looking into his eyes, Emily realized that no matter what the future held, she was no longer afraid. She was ready to face it with him by her side. In the days that followed, Emily and Liam spent hours discussing the decision that would shape their future. The pressure was immense, but they faced it together. They talked late into the night, weighing the pros and cons, exploring every possible outcome. Their conversations weren't just about business anymore, they were about their lives, their dreams, and what mattered most. As they sat across from each other one evening, looking at the proposal that had been placed before them, Emily realized something. The future of their project and their relationship didn't have to be decided by fear or pressure. It had to be about trust, trust in themselves, and trust in each other. Liam, Emily began, her voice steady, I've been thinking a lot about this, and I realize now that we've built something incredible. Whatever happens, we've already proven what we're capable of. We can take on anything as long as we do it together. Liam looked at her, a soft smile tugging at the corners of his lips. You're right. This isn't about taking the easy route. It's about building something that's ours, something that stands on its own. But whatever path we choose, I want you by my side, always. Emily nodded, her heart swelling with warmth. The decision didn't feel as daunting anymore. She knew that together, they could make the right choice, no matter how uncertain the future seemed. Then let's do it, she said, her voice full of determination. Let's build this our way. We don't need to compromise our vision or our values. We'll find a way to make it work, without losing what matters most. The weight that had settled in her chest lifted, replaced by a feeling of relief and certainty. They weren't just partners in business anymore, they were partners in life. And together, they could conquer anything. The next day, Emily and Liam called a meeting with their team and investors. They stood side by side, ready to make their vision clear. They explained their decision. They would keep the project true to its roots, without compromising on their values or their goals. They would not let anyone change the core of what they had built together. The room was filled with murmurs, but as Liam spoke with conviction, Emily felt a surge of pride. This was the moment they had been working for. The moment when they took control of their own destiny. By the end of the meeting, the investors understood. They saw the passion, the drive, and the integrity behind Emily and Liam's decision. They agreed to proceed, but on their terms, the terms that had always been part of the project's vision. That night, Emily stood on the balcony of their shared apartment, looking out over the city lights. The skyline stretched out before her, a reminder of all they had accomplished and all that was still ahead. Liam joined her, his presence comforting, a steady force beside her. He wrapped his arm around her shoulders, pulling her close. We did it, he said softly. We built this together, and we're not stopping now. Emily smiled, leaning into him, feeling the warmth of his embrace. No, we're not, she replied, her voice filled with hope and determination. She had started this journey uncertain, but now she was sure of one thing. The future was theirs to create. Together, they had built more than just a business. They had built a life full of love, trust, and the promise of endless possibilities. As they stood together, watching the city below, Emily knew that this was only the beginning. Whatever came next, they would face it together, hand in hand, building their dreams, one step at a time.